Hello and Merry Christmas from the Vinyl Brotherhood. I hope the holiday season has been good to each and every one of you. And I've got some great news, but it looks like Backstreet is back. And apparently they have a Christmas album that I had not been made aware of. And I don't care who you are, where you're from, and what you did. I think that's cause for celebration. So get comfortable. We're going to get started with this review because it's going to be larger than life. While they may be a household name, I have to admit the Backstreet Boys aren't a group that I keep up with very closely at all. My brother wore out the Backstreet's Back cassette tape as well as Millennium on CD, and I don't think I even listened to Black and Blue, and so that's my extent of Backstreet Boys knowledge. A small part of me is curious to know what they're up to nowadays, several records deep into their career, and maybe a seasonal offering isn't the best representation of what they're trying to accomplish musically in current year. But it is Christmas time, and this is the album that caught my attention. A very Backstreet Christmas, their 9th studio album and 10th in territories outside of the United States. Going into this review, I'm expecting, or at least hoping, for some silky smooth 5-part harmonies, sparkling pop beats to snap my fingers to, and a generous dose of Christmas cheer. Let's see if the Backstreet Boys rise to the occasion. All right, let's get right down to it. Here's the album artwork for a very Backstreet Christmas. It looks like they're just hauling a tree into a log cabin. Brian's pointing at you as to say, "Oh, look, there's a Vinyl Brotherhood. Welcome in, guys." I'm not super impressed with the type there. Kind of generic, to be honest. They thought I wouldn't recognize Sign Painter. Here's the back. Y'all see the problem with this picture? White rug. I'm just saying these shoes better be fresh out of the box. But otherwise, it's very nice. They, again, look very happy to see you. Let's take a look at the inside. Got a nice little gatefold here. Fun image. They get to show a little bit of their individual personalities. But yeah, very colorful. Love the bright reds. So, a very Backstreet Christmas. It looks like it's still Brian, AJ, Howie, Kevin, and Nick. Same guys as back then, and you know, it's really nice to see. Back in the day, you were allowed to either like the Backstreet Boys or the lesser boy band NSYNC. And one way to prove your allegiance was to know the members' first names and refer to them by those first names. It is weird, but I didn't know guitar-centric music was a thing yet, so I went along with it. And still, everyone at the time knew who the Backstreet Boys were, and for a group who have operated at that level, I'm surprised any sort of Christmas project hadn't happened before now. But at long last, it looks like we've got a full-length Christmas offering from the Backstreet Boys, so let's dive in. They kick things off with Irving Berlin's White Christmas, a song everybody knows. The barbershop quartet thing is a little hokey, but the woodwinds and the throwback instrumentation sort of balance things out, recalling those classic Christmas TV specials. I should mention that the grand majority of this album is made up of cover songs, something all too typical of the seasonal offering. But thankfully, they pull from several different places, including the classic standards, contemporary deep cuts, and ancient hymns, giving us a welcome variety. More along the lines of White Christmas, the boys perform an a cappella rendition of Walking in a Winter Wonderland. It's not really my cup of eggnog, but I can appreciate the vocal chops on display. It's also very far removed from the sound of the Backstreet Boys I remember from 20 plus years ago, which is fine, but again, it makes me wonder what their more recent studio albums sound like. I understand holiday records are a time to do fun, one-off novelty experiments, but I'm genuinely curious. They also do a couple of other Christmas standards, including Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas, a personal favorite of mine. Nothing too special here, but they definitely check off all the usual boxes. Jazzy string arrangements are something I simply can't do without when it comes to Christmas music. And the Backstreet Boys' trademark vocal blend is so nice in and of itself, it's sort of what keeps me from skipping over these business as usual tracks. They do get a little more adventurous with other songs on this record. In particular, everyone's favorite 1984 Christmas song by Wham. I've never had a problem with Last Christmas. I am, after all, a devoted fan of 1980s cheese, but I don't think I know anyone who actually likes this song, and yet the industry just insists upon more and more cover versions. Nonetheless, I'm always interested to see what people do with it, and not all Last Christmas covers are made equal, but thankfully, this version isn't too shabby. It's probably the one song on the record that most resembles the heyday Backstreet Boys, and they pull it off effortlessly. You can tell that they had a lot of fun with this cut. It's jam-packed with all kinds of embellishments and fun production tricks. Like it or hate it, it does give this album some extra vibrance and color between the serviceable cover tunes. And it's actually the other more contemporary selections that don't exactly rock my world. As impressed as I am with their choices, such as Donny Hathaway's This Christmas and Christmas in New York, the final result felt a little more on the generic side to me. A lot more geared toward the adult contemporary audience maybe, where there isn't much demand for anything beyond a clean and well-executed performance. And I do mean well-executed though. There are some really strong, if not especially original instrumental passages, and the guys just continue to crush it with their vocals. I'd be content to sit through the Backstreet Boys singing a textbook. It's just that their musical surroundings may not always be super interesting. Elsewhere on the record, they also include a couple of traditional age-old hymns, Oh Holy Night and Silent Night, two of my favorites. The placement on the track listing is a little puzzling. Oh Holy Night comes immediately after Last Christmas, so that jump from the secular to the sacred was a little jarring at first listen. Even so, I love these timeless classics, not only for their musical sophistication, but for the message that shares the heart of Christmas, the coming of Jesus Christ, and the songs are treated with the appropriate reverence. The Backstreet Boys do a spectacular job on the vocals, but other than the vocal arrangement, they keep things relatively stripped down, which I can appreciate. And they keep it all very tasteful without being bland or boring either. And finally, at the tail end of the record, we get two originals in which the boys serve as co-writes. Both songs lean into a 70s, 80s-ish feel, kind of like soul and R&B that's been revived in recent years. Lyrically, the sentiments are your typical holiday cheer kind of thing, and they're pretty simple, but they definitely aren't generic, predictable, or boring. I certainly wasn't counting on them name-dropping Marvin Gaye, but I guess I'm cool with it. So I don't know that either of these tunes are going to be breaking into that elite annual Christmas playlist anytime soon, but they are certainly welcome at a very Backstreet Christmas's tail end, wrapping it all up with a nice bow and leaving us with big smiles on our faces. So all in all, I had a generally decent time with this one. I've listened to deeper and more creative albums this year, but nobody's listening to the Backstreet Boys looking for a challenging avant-garde thrill ride. This is your highly polished, highly approachable pop production, and with that in mind, I would say job well done. Of course, something you have to factor in when reviewing any Christmas album is the Christmas magic. Do we get those seasonal warm fuzzies when we listen to a very Backstreet Christmas? Well, I'm delighted to tell you that yes, the Christmas spirit is certainly present on this offering, and a lot of that is due to the small embellishments and details that were added to these arrangements. But to their advantage, there are a lot of qualities to the Backstreet Boys' sound, like the tight, rich harmonies, pristine production, that fit right in with some of our favorite Christmas music norms and expectations. So on the Venn diagram, there would be a significant crossover between the Backstreet Boys circle and the Christmas music circle. This album is as commercial as it gets, but not in a cynical cash grab kind of way. What it wants to be is the official soundtrack of Christmas shopping and the excess of the holidays. Again, not in a cynical way. This work comes across as very warm and sincere, and the boys, or rather the men, sound very passionate and invested in the project, so good for them. I find it hard to be too critical of anything on a very Backstreet Christmas. It isn't perfect, some arrangements aren't terribly creative, and there are a couple songs that don't add much, but it's more than just inoffensive, it's also delightful. It probably won't be for everyone. I can't imagine you'll be dying to spin this if you're hoping for something more original or a bit off the beaten path. But if you're down for it, if you're wanting some of that comfy Christmas cheer and familiarity in your life, then a very Backstreet Christmas gets the job done. I've got some final thoughts, so let's head on back to the living area so I can close this out. I can't say that I expect all that much from the Backstreet Boys these days. My interest in the group, like many of us, probably dwindled sometime around the turn of the century. And I'm honestly not too sure why I picked up this poppy boy band record or why I chose to review it for the Vinyl Brotherhood. But you know what? I'm glad I did. It was like a sip of hot apple cider for my soul, desperately in need of that Christmas warmth. The Backstreet Boys and their collaborators did a very fine job in giving these classic and age-old tunes a breath of new life. And while I could understand an argument for more originality or a little more edge, I think the guys accomplished what they set out to do and made it look easy while doing so. As for a score, I'll be giving A Very Backstreet Christmas a 7 out of 10 today. Check it out, I think you might be pleasantly surprised. Will it become a Christmas staple that I'll be revisiting 3, 4, 5 years from now? I guess only time will tell. Well, that's all I've got. Let me know what you think in the comments. Maybe you've listened to this, and if so, I'd love to know what you think of it. So I'd like to say a big thanks to everyone for watching. We really appreciate your time and your viewership, not just for this video, but for all of 2023. It was a fun year for us. Please be sure to like, sub, and share, and all that good stuff. This is the last you'll see of us this year, but we'll be back with more reviews as soon as 2024 gets going. God bless you all. Have the merriest Christmas season and a happy, happy New Year. We'll see you then.